I'd like to open the Lake City City Council meeting for July the 17th, 2023 to order. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation to be given by Councilmember Ricky Johnson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for everybody that's in attendance. Thank you for the city council. Thank you for our city and the county of Lake City, Florida. Look over our first responders. Look over our troops and abroad. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jernigan?
Here.
Mr. Hill? Ms. Young? Here. Mr. Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Witt?
Here.
Mr. Dial?
Here.
Mr. Kennon?
Here.
Chief Butler?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting. Since 1968, the city code has prohibited any person from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There is only one approved manner of addressing the city council that can be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body is meeting. No proclamation tonight. We have minutes from June 29th workshop and July 3rd regular session.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for approval of the minutes from June 29th and July 3rd.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes as published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the agenda, and I've been asked to move items 15 to 18 up so we can get them in the earlier part of the meeting, and I would like to do that after public comments before presentations.
So moved, man.
Okay, got a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we only have two people.
Mayor, if I may, just to let the council and others know that I will have to leave at 7 tonight, and I will be attending First Central Congress of Christian Education at New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Albert Baker, and I will present the welcome them to the city, and hopefully I can share with them greetings from the entire council, and I would like to present them a key to the city for this week.
Okay. You get with Ms. Sykes, she'll get you.
And I also want to announce that Mr. Hill is ill this evening, is unable to attend. Luckily, I got it last Thursday and Friday. I have Leonard Johnson.
Mayor, I only want to address the council in the evening. There's some questions about Richardson Community Center. Otherwise, there's no.
Okay. Aaron Trippinsey.
Okay. My name's Aaron Trippinsey. I live on Southwest Laurel Lane. And I would like to talk with the City Council about where we are about this issue. The issue is the violation of the Land Development Regulation 4.2.23, use of land in a residential district for commercial access that is occurring on Southwest Laurel Lane. Back in February, I started a conversation with the city officials to begin a search of the regulations to find any appropriate regulations that would apply to commercial traffic being routed into a residential neighborhood. What we found is there are a lot of regulations that speak to protecting the residential character of neighborhoods. Then, 6 weeks ago, we found the regulation that directly addresses the violation, and that is occurring on Southwest Laurel Lane. That's 4.2.23. At the June 5th meeting, I presented the rule and the fact of the violation. The rule is not ambiguous. The violations are open and obvious, and as described by the plain language and text of the rule. Mr. Dial claims that he needs more legal opinions. You can see what is happening on that street just as good as I can. The city can see this too. 2 families with young children have moved into the rental houses on both sides of me. These children are preschool age. And all that traffic zooming up and down the street going to the Circle K. Mr. Mayor, I have a point of order. May I be recognized?
Yes, sir, you're speaking.
The city has a duty to know and understand its own regulations and to promptly act upon their enforcement.
I'll get with Mr.
I now ask Mr. Jernigan to address this issue.
Okay, I came down that road, or that street, and there's definitely a lot of traffic in and out of there. I think we talked to Mr. Sampson on several occasions, and he agreed to put a fence back there to protect of going in and coming out. And again, this is my opinion. And I'm hoping and praying that he fulfill what he said he was going to do. And I also talked to Mr. Dowell about it, and I definitely want to get with the 2 of them and address this issue. This has been an issue that's been going on for quite some time, and of course they did a traffic study, they did some everything, but that still did not please you and the constituents in that area. So therefore, I'm requesting Mr. Dowell to get with maybe Mr. Sampson and go ahead and put that fence post back there to control some, if not all, of the traffic that's coming in and out of there. So, Mr. Sampson, where we are with that fence that you said that you were?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I'm not putting a fence up at this point.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Point of order.
Mr. Mayor,
Conflict of interest.
We have Mr.
Conflict of interest.
Don't speak. and let us-
Contradiction of rule.
I want to ask for you to be removed if you open your mouth again.
Is the fire chief on site?
Yes.
I can't see, because he's the one that informed me that there will not be a fence put there. So to me, I think Mr. Trippency's correct path is to go through planning and zoning and through Mr. Dial's administration to see what the rules are. Mr. Trippency has an interesting reading of the rules, which I don't agree with. But you know, he has read them to his benefit. However, you know, the one property he's talking about that's owned by the neighbor across the street from him, it's zone commercial. I don't know why he wants to stop that man's access from the road when it's zone commercial already. So, to me, it needs to go through the proper channels through the planning and zoning department, through that, and then they can let him know what the rules are. And my understanding is, I think he's talked to them and he didn't like the fact that the rules aren't what he states they are. So to me, that would be his path.
Point of order, the city has not given me any answer on this issue at all. And I have public record declaring there are no allowed commercial driveways. On Laurel Lane, we have 3 businesses using these makeshift driveways: Circle K, Laundromat, and Mr. Slade.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Mr. Dow to get with Mr. Cannon and see what the legalities are and move this forward, so everybody can get it resolved and get it proper channel. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just like I say, we've been kicking this dead horse for quite some time, so can we give a time frame to Mr. Trippin as a, maybe the next meeting, 2 weeks or a month? We need a time frame to set a boundary if we're gonna do something or we're not gonna do anything. He needs to know, obviously, he worked for DOT. He knows something about what he's saying. And I have went down that street and saw exactly what he's saying, so.
If we have an answer before, we can do it at the next meeting. If not, at least by the second meeting in August. We should be able to resolve it some way of what avenue it is. Maybe something we address, planning and zoning or lawyers.
Yes, so I really appreciate you coming up and pointing that out to me. And again, I have looked into your situation, your matter. I'll make sure that Mr. Dow definitely come down there and take a look at it. However, we're all professionals, including yourself. So make sure we stay within the guidelines. But we all bleed the same way. We have feelings, and you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, you're gonna get what you're asking for. You understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jernigan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the council.
Okay, that covers everybody I have. We will move into items 15 through 18, so we wasn't here. Okay, item 15 is update on city project, Mr. Dial.
Thank you, Mayor. We were tasked last council meeting to come up with a project list, and we've been working with the clerk's office and different avenues to come up with things that have been talked about in council meetings and to see where we are at with them. This is an ongoing list. This is just a draft that we have now. There's going to be more items that will be added as they come online. The ones I want to cover is Annie Maddox Park, the resurfacing of the basketball and tennis courts. We're hoping to be completed for them this week, depending on the weather. The lighting, the concrete poles have been ordered. We're looking at about 14 to 16 week lead time. That should be somewhere around November. The cameras, we're pending on those. Lake Montgomery, FWC has 90% plans. Cameras in a new location of fence have been discussed. Clearing and grubbing is complete, unless additional is needed once the cameras are installed and we need to clear something for them to have a view of the lake. As far as the North Downtown projects, which the council approved on 2/22/22, the trash cans have been installed. The benches were no longer requested. The pavers and concrete are complete. The relocation of the Welcome Downtown sign, we're waiting on property to relocate to make contact with the property owner. The antique lights, FPL looked into this, however, the city doesn't have an easement to relocate, so we will continue using the current LED. Relocation of historic district sign, Mr. Kennan is still reviewing that. Sally J. Jerry Clark, we're still waiting on the eminent domain to get that. The senior home repair, we sent the additional $250,000 over to the county last week for a total of the city contributing $750,000. Memorial Stadium, the bids have closed on 7/13, and we're currently reviewing proposals, and then we'll proceed with the RTC. The one on here that Mr. Hill had asked for was an update on Gwynn Lake. On Gwynn Lake, basically we brought in another engineering firm, basically about a month ago when they got assigned the task assignment. And I'm happy to report we've made some pretty good progress in the last month. We've made more in the last month than we have in quite a while. So far, they've completed the evaluation of the lake and the outlet channel and the jurisdictional boundaries of the lake. They've mapped the inlet plant communities for use in mitigation. And what that is, the last time we met with Swanee River, they were trying to claim a lot of the growth and stuff inside of the lake were basically needed to stay there, so we've had to do a mitigation on the plans to see what can be removed and what can't be removed. When I say have, Wetland Solutions, the ones that are doing the engineering on the lake for us now, they have a meeting set up with Sarah Corbett. She's the one at Swanee River Water Management District that we're having to deal with to get the permits and everything. We've made, Wetland Solution has set up a meeting with her on 8/1 on site, so we'll be able to go and start that process. They also submitted the pre-application today to Swanee River. That's another step to hopefully get it on their agenda the first week of August, so they can start planning on that. And this is just some of the overview of some of the projects and stuff that the council has voted on. Like I said, there will be more added and more updates as they move forward. And if you have any questions on anything that wasn't covered in here, I'll be happy to answer.
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment. We appreciate the progress that you're making with these different tasks that you have been given or assigned. If you would, just continue to do that and work towards prioritize it, however you do it. Again, you're a professional, you know how you want to do it. So just make sure that we keep abreast on that and get these things completed. That way, we can move to another project. So I think you're doing a really, really good job, you and your administration. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, sir.
Just an update, Sally Mae Jesse, the 2 parking lots, eminent domains are filed. We're waiting on the clerk to issue the summons. One resident is local, that should go pretty quick on service. The other ones live in New York, so I'm gonna be at the mercy of a New York process server, but those are in the works to be served. And then if we can't find somebody, then we have to end up noticing them by publication, but that is moving forward.
And I just want to say, thank you. I certainly appreciate this. My question is, and I know there are many other items and or projects that we have to look into and to see where we are in that. So are we gonna do this in phases or in other words, the ones that we're working on now, we're gonna get these as far to complete as we possibly can, and then we'll bring another list, or how, is that the way you're thinking about?
Yes, ma'am. We're trying to get the ones that have been on the list for the longest and try to get some traction on those. Some of them take a little bit longer than others, but we're hoping to get, when we get some of these cleaned up, to be able to move quicker on the new ones that will be coming before us.
Great, thank you so much.
Anything else?
Sir, thank you, Mr. Dowd.
Mr. Cannon, next is discussion September cleanup day, council members, Valley Up.
Okay. September cleanup day. Of course, I was not here on the last cleanup. I do know that it's a great idea. We are concerned about our city being clean. We want a clean city, clean Lake City. And in order to do that, we know it takes many hands. We would not be able to do this just somebody walking by and see a piece of paper and pick it up. So we decided to do this as a project. And as I say, I understand it that it has been done before and it worked great. And we're looking for an even better outcome this time. And Mr. Dowell has informed me that he spoke with Waste Pro. Would you like to expound on that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I got with Katrina Medeiros, the customer service director, and she reached out to Waste Pro, and they're the ones that have done it in the past, and they're willing to give us the roll-offs. They'll put them wherever we want them at. Council just needs to decide what locations we want to put them at. Waste Pro will give the roll-offs for free, but the city will be responsible for the tippage fees once they're full. That's been the practice in the past. So basically all we need is the date, the time, and where you all would like it placed.
Okay, and this is a community project, and I would like to kind of serve the people, feed, whether it be hot dogs, hamburgers, or whatever. We'll discuss that at a later time. But as far as the area, as to where we would set the containers, the area that we would work from, I think, you want to talk about Mr. Sandberg, if that's okay?
Well, you know, I know we have these lots up here that's catty corner from the old bank building that's vacant, which would be a location, but I know, Mr. Dowell, you may have a location that'd be better, but something central that would be accessible to as many people as possible, either there or on Main Boulevard by the current customer service location, or even the old baseball field.
Last time, I think they did Memorial Stadium, where they had those and the cookout.
Yes, sir. I mean, we have several options to be able to place them, to be more centralized. And, you know, if we're just going to focus on one area, that gives us a better idea of, you know, where we can put them, and where we can locate them, and how many we will need. You know.
Okay, I don't know that we want to focus on one area. How was it done in the past?
The last one, I remember, we had two areas. We had Memorial Stadium now, I think there's one south. And I think Memorial had more participation. And we had the cookout there. And, well, we've had a couple, and one had really good turnout. And I forgot what group it was. It was either churches or schools. And got a real good turnout from that. And then one didn't get as much turnout as I remember.
Just, so I would suggest to do it at Memorial Stadium, if that's where the most participation was, but still we don't wanna leave anybody behind.
Right.
So if we have to do it twice, if we have to do it 2 times to cover all areas, I think that would be great. So first time, Memorial,
Date picked out.
we don't have a specific date picked out, we just said the month of September.
Yeah, let's keep working on it.
We'll work on that.
Keep bringing that up.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is Department of Administration, recommendation to approve the tentative millage rate and the trim notice. That'd be Mr. Dial and Ms. Moore.
Yes, is it on? Council, we're asking that you approve the current millage rate of the 4.9000 mils. We can go back to the rollback rate, which is the 4.5. That would give us the same revenues that we currently have. If we go with the current rate, the revenue would increase 325,000, roughly.
So you want us to do that now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve a rate of 4.9? We can always go down from that rate, we can't go
You can
up,
always go down.
but we
can't
don't,
go
we
up.
can't go up, so I recommend we set it at that.
Mr. Mayor, this is the trim notice, so this is the notice that goes out.
Yes.
Are there multiple, options being presented?
The 2 I had presented was the current and the rollback.
So those 2 will be on the trim notice if we approve that today.
It would be the highest, whichever is the highest. We can always go down.
I make a motion that, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve, that millage rate 4.9.
Second. I'll second. All right, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson? Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Okay, now, do we need to set the dates that you proposed in our agenda packet?
The next item on the agenda is the trim schedule.
Oh, okay, are we done with
17 now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll move to 18 and the trim schedule
That's in the packet. I think it's mostly our regular meetings, there's 2 workshops in August, Tuesday and Wednesday around the 16th, 17th. And I think the rest of it all pretty.
There's a special meeting, September 11th, they have the trim schedule.
Oh, yeah, a special meeting September the 11th. Is there a motion to approve that schedule?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve that schedule as published.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that item? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Okay, so we need to make back up the agenda.
We're at where the consent agenda would be, there's not one, there's presentations. Tammy Magstad, is that pronounced right? Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did good.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Magstead on Peace Drive in Lake City, Florida. And I presented 2 sheets of paper for tonight for the budget request. And this is a request from May through October. It's just this 4 months interim before we get to the actual fiscal year. So, first of all, I've got current programs listed and future programs, and I had listed a budget out to give salaries and county allocations, city allocations, some of the income we've had. Does anyone have any questions for me on this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Sure.
With this budget request that you submitted on these
Yes.
different projects and expenses, is this for the county or is it for recreation?
This is for the Richardson Community Center.
So it's for,
And it is for running the center,
Yes, ma'am.
and it is for programs. Now, I do realize that the city had talked about fundings for programs. That's why I listed actually our current programs and our future. Probably one of the biggest things right now, we have programs we're offering, we are renting, I mean, it's really going well. We've got our summer program is about to wrap up this week. We have different things going, but our biggest thing right now is we need to hire a director. And that's, between getting money from the city and the county, we do need to hire a director. And then going forward, I've been speaking with a lot of different people about programs and different things that we can offer. And that's why I listed some of these, and there's different costs involved. So as far as the city providing funding, we can do it towards programs, whichever you prefer, but our biggest thing we need right now is a director.
when you say you need a director, what kind of background checks are we gonna do on that director? Do we do background checks or?
Oh, yes, we've been doing actually background checks on anyone that's been an employee.
Yes, ma'am.
And even the ones that have come in as volunteers, we've been doing a level 2 background check. That's why part of it we had kind of put in the budget.
Yes, I saw that.
But also, we have a whole process we're gonna do with hiring a director. We're going to put an ad in the paper with certain requirements.
Yes, ma'am.
We're gonna get the resumes back in. But we were waiting for our funding because you can't hire someone if you don't have anything to offer them.
Yes. And so here, I think it says something about $50,000. I think Mrs. Sampson and the council was trying to figure out where all this money was gonna come from. So, and me personally, I don't know where it's gonna come from, but we're gonna do what we can to assist Richardson Community Center and the board. Of course, I don't wanna make the decision by myself, Mr. Hill. I would love for him to be here and have some input on this, just like the other councils. But we will definitely, me personally, again, I will definitely do whatever I can to assist you guys over there at that community center, because we definitely don't wanna see it just fall by the wayside. So we know you need monies to make it run, to fund it correctly. Okay, that's all I got to say.
So I do have maybe a few questions.
Yes.
And of course, I'm totally confused when it comes to Richardson as to, so what employees do you have there now?
Okay, right now, we have 3 gym attendants. 2 of them are gym aides and 1 is a custodian. And they work together between them full-time. We don't let them do any overtime. And so between the 3 of them, we have 1 man, 1 woman, and then a custodian, which is a man. And we have them working 8 until 6, Monday through Friday. And then we have 1 gentleman that works 9 to 3 on Saturday. And then we have a outside restroom attendant for the weekend. Those are our employees right now that we're paying.
So you say we're paying, who pays the salary?
Richardson,
Richardson Board pays
Yes,
the
ma'am.
salary.
Mhm.
What happened so the county doesn't pay any salary at Richardson?
not at Richardson. They have one maintenance man that is paid for by the county, that comes through to Richardson, does his projects in the morning and then at different times.
What happened?
What do you mean, what happened? The county owns it and then they turned it over to us to run it. Now, they're gonna fund us, but they're saying they will fund us according to what you fund, like,
So they're not gonna fund you, in other
well,
words.
if you are not. I mean, I'm going by the amounts that you had specifically said originally. Now, nothing was in writing, I
Okay, 'cause we
understand
had
that.
stipulations, we didn't just say we was gonna hand over
No,
$50,000.
I understand that, that's why I showed you for
Okay.
future programs. That's why, I understood that.
Well, the county has contributed funding to the Richardson Community Center. They contributed $32,000 for what we are doing right now. But that funding is just for a short period of time, because we do need that director. If it had not been for this MAGSTAG going out there practically every day to check to make certain that things are being run in the way that they should, those reg aides that she just come every day, and she is in regular communication with them, how things are going out there. We need a director who should be on site, 8 hours a day to make certain that things are being ran as they should. Ms. MAGSTAG is just unbelievable how much time she is spending out here trying to ensure that the programming and the employees are doing what they're supposed to do.
I believe that, I know Ms. MAGSTAG is running and she will do. Those who will work gets the work, so I know she does get the work. But I'm just in a space right now with the meeting we had, everything that was said, all the promises that was made, I don't see them being fulfilled. And here we are, and I don't wanna take it personal, and I don't wanna feel personal, but I do. I do, because it's not just me, but it's those who I represent. And I just feel like we've been failed. If I can say we, I'm talking about the community, we've been failed. It's just not right for the county to say they're gonna fund if we fund.
Well,
Or maybe it's misworded, miscorrect, maybe it's misworded, but that's not.
the county is funding. If you can remember back on our joint meeting out at Richardson Community Center, it was very clear that the city was saying, we're going to do our part. So if you're talking about fail, when is it that we can expect that the city is going to make the contribution that they said they were going to make?
Which we didn't just say we was going to give. There was a certain criteria, and we can look back on it.
Mr. Mayor. So the motion was for 50,000, but 10,000 was the Lake City Police Department providing someone. I think that's already taken place.
Yes, it is. They've been
Provided
coming
off of
out,
the chief, so
yes.
that was 10,000 of the 50. The other amount we were reallocating was specifically to go to pay for programs that the city would decide. But the second part, getting back to a point you're making, is right after that, we were to have a committee with the county and the city together to determine what the programs were. And that's where I think there might have been a little bit of a severing of understanding maybe, because we were putting up that 40 for programs. The idea, and I believe Mr. Dial met with the county manager at some point to set this up, and I don't think we've got this committee set up yet that was gonna determine how that funding was gonna go. But I mean, we were talking not about operational funding, but funding specific to specific programs. And I think we need to do the specific programs, but I see a bunch of good programs here that you're proposing, and I'm not against funding any one of these programs. But to see it as a line item on the budget, I don't think that's gonna work, because that 40,000 is not gonna cover a director. It's gonna go straight to the program. And maybe there's some other insight from how those meetings went and why, what's going on as far as the second part, which was after that motion made when we were gonna have the committee for programs at Richardson. I don't know if Mr. Dow wants to speak to that, Mr. Mayor.
That, Dow, you have anything to add to that?
Yes, sir. I did meet with Mr. Kraus, and it also made it to the attorneys. But what happened right shortly after that was that the Richardson deeds were accepted by the county. And the discussions were that we were going to have a committee based on the city, the county, to decide what programming would be ran there. Shortly after the county received the deeds, then they turned around and turned the full operation of Richardson over to the Richardson Board, which basically took the city out of having any dealings with Richardson. So that's where we're at on the committee. So at that point, there was really no reason to have a committee at that point because the county was no longer involved in it. Richardson Board does everything now.
One thing backing up too, also to what the county has put in, they actually ran all employees, all management, everything until June 1st. June 1st is when we took everything over. They also funded the summer program. They put a certain amount towards the funding towards the summer camp, and then they put a certain amount towards the basketball. So it was like a funding towards the programs. So it wasn't like they just didn't give us any money. That's not fair. I mean, they gave us money to run both programs, and we ran a 6-week summer camp program with the money that they offered, or they gave us for that.
Mr. Dow, we're in the position of being able to come up with programs. If the city wants to make that contribution in terms of the types of programming that is going to be held at Richardson, then we are open for that. So we don't necessarily need the county, the city doesn't need the county to decide what programs will be. But if you are making your funding conditional on somebody from the city being on a committee to decide programming, we can do that post haste. We need not delay this any further if you're simply talking about putting a committee together to decide programming. Because we have some ideas here, and Mr. Sampson just said, I like what you got even written here, so I don't understand why is it that is, so complicated in terms of the city making contribution, just on the fact that the programming is an issue. There are programming out there now and programming that is scheduled. I mean, if there's something that the city would like to see happening out at Richardson Community Center, I don't see how in the world we could make that happen. So, I'm just saying,
Could I respond? Mayor, could I respond? I was only asked about, where we were with the committee, and I was just giving advice on that. As far as the funding and all that, the council makes that decision. I was just giving the thing that it was basically when we were gonna have the committee before, it was gonna be based between the city and the county to oversee programs and things at the center. And since it was turned over to the Richardson Board, that took the county out of that. So it's up to the council to decide what they wanna do with that, as far as if they wanna have a committee with the board, that would be a different scenario than what was originally put forward, so. But that would be the council's decision. I don't have any decision on the funding.
But what I'm hearing is that, the city made a promise to give the $50,000, but we promised to give $50,000 to the county. So we're not going back on our word if we say we're not, I'm not saying we're not giving the $50,000, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if the board decide, no, we're not gonna do it, we're not going against our word. The county and all of this, it was a setup, and it's all just playing now. It's funny, but it's not funny.
Well,
the meeting that we had at
Excuse me?
Richardson Community Center, to me, didn't indicate by any stretch of the imagination that anybody was flogging or somebody was just trying to. I got the distinct impression that the county and the city was going to make the funding available for Richardson Community Center. That was clear. I don't think anybody walked out of that room without that understanding.
Okay, I need to ask Ms. Magstad, what did you say?
I didn't say anything, I smiled when you smiled.
I heard what you said.
What'd you hear?
I heard it, go ahead. Y'all go ahead with
Mr.
me.
Mayor,
Yes,
so the amount was 40,000. 10,000 we've already
Right.
started giving through the police
And we
involvement.
have received
Yeah,
that. They've
and that's
been there.
rolling according to the chief. So going back to the exact motion, it was in this fiscal year towards programs at Richardson Community Center. We never were gonna fund money to the county. That was never, when we talked about it, we were not gonna give the county a check.
Under any circumstance.
No.
But also,
no.
ma'am, Ms. Chevelle, if you desire programs, we literally can give you amounts and do it towards programs if that's what you prefer.
I don't have a problem with programs.
Okay,
I don't have a problem with programs. Any programs go on out there that benefits the community, I smile upon. I don't have a problem with programs. But I have a problem with saying what the city said they were gonna do, and then you come and everything has been adjusted. That's all that I'm saying. It's not what we agreed upon.
Well, Ms. Young, I don't know of any entity, city, Richardson Community Center Board, county, could run the community center better than the board. I mean, some of us have been out there for 20 years, so.
You put words in my mouth, Mr. Johnson, I didn't say you couldn't run it.
Well, you said it was a change, as if
That doesn't
the
mean you
county
can't
has
run
done
it.
something on the city and let them, pull in a bag that they have no idea what to do with. And I'm offering to you that you don't have to worry about programming. It's just a matter of funding. We're gonna provide the programming. There's no question about that. It is whether you want to contribute to the funding of the program. That's the issue.
and we did understand one other thing too, is you had mentioned at one of your city council meetings that you really wanted to see something besides sports, and I agreed with that. And so that's part of our future programming, is we're trying to get different programs that offer, like we're working with Florida Gateway College and Mr. Travis George, and not just like I listed some e-gaming, sports, to have this e-gaming thing, which he's working on, but he also is going to work towards getting some more academic things, science programs, that kind of thing. So we're not just, like, we're trying to get some programs that fit with what you're talking about also.
second, anybody else have anything at this time? Mr. Warren wanted to speak, so I'll let him speak at this time, and then we'll leave it up. So if y'all step aside a second, let Mr. Warren just.
Mr. Mayor, before I speak, this is a presentation. I didn't see any discussion or possible action, so there's not gonna be any action taken tonight on their presentation, am I correct?
Probably not, but I don't know, let everybody else do.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't planning on coming to the council meeting, don't plan on coming to any council meeting unless it has something directly to do with issues that relate to me or my businesses and things of that nature. But I just felt the need to jump on, throw on some clothes and come down here. I feel that y'all keep playing with the county, now y'all playing with the board. The board got just what they deserve. The board is a sham, and that's why the president I spoke to today is gonna resign in December. Because he's tired of what the board is doing behind his back. They played with Commissioner Williams, and they got just what they deserve. Commissioner Williams, he made a motion for $2 million to buy Lake City Reporter, right, and remodel it. And he told them that he would take care of A, B, C, and D. He lied to us, the county, in that joint meeting, said they would do everything in the world to make sure we keep the $2 million grant. I begged them not to agree to let this board, the Richardson Community Center Board, take over. I knew this was gonna happen. And what it did, it got the pressure off of Commissioner Williams, transferred it over to Jeff Ty so he doesn't have a running mate, and now they're stuck raising funding. So I suggest they go get a grant writer, and if it's the county-owned building, why are we looking for giving them money for a director? We need to use our own money for everything that we got coming forward. We need a grant writer. We need a whole lot of stuff. And as far as a taxpayer, we already contribute to the Richardson Community Center as a city taxpayer because we pay city tax and county tax. Don't you do the same, Mr. Mayor? Because you live in the city.
Yep.
That is our contribution to Richardson Community Center. When the city had it, everybody else wanted it. Now they got it. Now it's their baby. It is no longer, and it should no longer be a discussion of the city. Now, as far as programs, I was here when Mr. Sampson and them voted and talked about programs. They never told the board to go find them programs. This city commission, city council said they would come up with programs that they like and that they will fund. So all this board running around, coming up with what they want to come up with, involving all these other people, fine. But we don't owe the Richardson Community Center nothing. And I'm telling you, this is the sentiment of the whole Black community that cherishes the Richardson Community Center. We no longer consider it to be our Richardson Community Center anymore. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from and where the hood is coming from. And we're gonna demonstrate that. So you mess around and give some money to them if you want to, you're gonna feel the pressure of the Black community in ways you've never felt it before. And that is no threat. We do not even consider that to be our community center anymore.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilor Wood.
Well, it's just a presentation, so we'd have to put it on the next agenda.
Right.
To,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
They're gonna have conversations, Mayor. I thought we were I'm gonna speak again to it.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, the board, Richardson Community Center Board, and I didn't want to say this, but I have to. The Richardson Community Center Board has probably the most educated board in this county, period. We have people with PhDs, with master's degrees. It's not a sham. The Richardson Community Center Board knows exactly what they're doing. It's just that there is a faction in this community that don't approve, want to take over, be in charge themselves. That does not represent the general Black community. When people get up here and talk like that, they're talking about a segment of people that they are involved in. I wouldn't dare say that this community, the Black community, is not supporting Richardson Community Center. It would not be the truth.
Mr. Mayor, I need to say something in return.
Very brief.
Very brief, Mayor. Mayor, calm down. Calm down, Mayor. Please.
Hey, go ahead.
So, what I will say is, why did Zach Paul and I have a conversation, and he was the one who told me that he's stepping down and he's tired of Leonard and the rest of them and all the stuff that they're pulling over there on the board. I didn't make this up. This was a phone call that came in to me by the current president. That's why you don't see the current president here advocating for any of this stuff. And as far as a fraction, there's no fraction. When is the last time you seen a Leonard Johnson in the Black community? When is the last time you seen any? Hold on.
No,
When's the last? I'm not getting the personal attacks. I say when's the point of information, y'all. I mean, Mayor.
We're not gonna mention names.
Point of information, Mr. Mayor. Point of information. We're gonna go by Robert's rule. Point of information, Mr. Mayor. When you say something according that's slanderous, then you can point an order. That's in the rule. But I have not said anything that's slanderous. I have said everything that is factual. And if you want me to, I can put Zach Paul on speakerphone right now on cell phone.
Right.
Okay, so everything I'm saying is factual. And these folks that you're talking about, this educated board, is way more educated and way more advanced. And that Richardson Community Center don't even have programs for girls.
Okay.
So how advanced and educated are they?
Okay. All right, Council, what is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Jernigan still trying to talk.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, making the decision today or tonight, without Mr. Hill being here and we got a full council, I think that would be a little bit off base. However, the board that they have, I guess they were put in place for a reason. I was under the impression that we were gonna allocate this $50,000 to the county. I didn't know we were gonna be giving it to a board. I didn't know that we were gonna be looking for help funding a director. I didn't know anything about that. So I voted to give the money to the county, and I still stand by that. However, we should definitely know where the county is spending the money. I think Mr. Sampson has said something to the effect that we don't wanna just give them the money, we wanna know where that $50,000 is going. You remember saying something about that or mentioning something about that? So, again, wherever that money is going, he wants documentation, and I'm totally in agreeing with that documentation. I don't just want that money just to go somewhere. It doesn't work like that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
point of clarification on the motion and the vote. We were never gonna give money to the county. We were going to fund programs that the city was going to come up with.
That was my understanding.
Yes, so, and that's what, if you go back to the minutes, that's what we voted for. So the 10,000 we've already given, because the chief's already doing that part of it, so it was 40,000 left, but the mechanism, like Mr. Dial mentioned earlier, the mechanism we had, right after that vote, talked about putting in place to pick those programs, we never put that in place, so we need a mechanism on how to fund that. Now, I don't think we need to invite the county to that mechanism at this point because they're not involved anymore, Richardson, other than they are funding what they're funding. So what we need to do is decide what programs we're willing to fund and go ahead and fund them out of that 40,000 that we've set aside for this year. So the real question is, again, back to what we talked about that meeting, is what's the mechanism to, since the committee's not gonna work here, Mr. Dial's experience, we need to figure out what do we want that mechanism to look like? How do we want to pick what we're going to fund at Richardson? And so that's to me is we need to put that mechanism in place.
Right, and tonight we can't do any of it, I don't think we're ready to do any of it.
No, I don't think we can because it's not on the agenda in that way. We have a funding request on the table, but when you go back, it's very clear the 40,000, there was 10,000 from the chief, and then the 40,000 is for programs. It was never gonna go to the county though, it was gonna be,
Program.
we would fund a program. Now, can we fund the program through the board? Yes, we could do that, but it's something that this council has to decide. Could we fund the program through the county? We could do that. Could we fund the program through the administration? We can do that. So there's a lot of ways you can fund a program. Could you pick another 501c3 and fund it through that? You could do that. So the funding's sitting there, the 40,000. But this group has to determine how, the mechanism, how we're gonna get that money into the program. And that's where we really fell apart from the last meeting.
Right.
Yes.
And I think it's a play on words here because funding through the county, we said funding the county,
That's
money
right.
going to the county.
That's right.
And as far as I'm concerned, we can still say it that way, but he's saying funding through the county. But it just goes back, where I am now derived from, the county said they will give money, they will fund if the city does. And that's not a fair statement. That's what has me where I am, other than Ms. Magstad thinking I'm funny. Oh, you funny. That's what you said.
I don't know if we're even ready to put it on the next agenda on 2 weeks to figure out those things. So maybe the second meeting, we can have a discussion about what everybody's ideas on that mechanism Mr. Sampson's talking about.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
one of the mechanisms you might want to consider is something that we're trying to look at for other things is on a reimbursement type. Say the city comes up with a program that you want to fund, then it will be up to the board to find that programming, and then it would be invoiced to the city based on that programming. That way you have a way to track the money.
Yeah.
Instead of just giving a lump sum, but that would be up to the council how you want to do that.
I'd say we need at least, not next meeting, but the next one, we discuss this and bring it back up, see how we want to do it. That's a good idea.
So let's move on to item 4 is Gallagher benefits
Mr.
presentation.
Mayor, I wanna, if it's a funding issue in regards to salaries and programming, the money that the city contribute can go to all programming. I think the county has made a commitment to handle the salaries of our director and other people that we might need out of there. So if the city is just concerned about whether the funding is going to programming or salaries, we can make that money go to programming. It doesn't have to be salaries.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
No, I'm talking about that Dr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
I didn't realize I had two Johnsons right there.
Just go, okay. All right. I will make a quick introduction and then turn it over to JD and Ryan. So I'm Tyson Johnson, formerly the owner of the Parks Johnson Agency. For years, we worked very closely with the city on its health insurance program, and then probably over the last 10 years or so, the city migrated toward a program through the Florida League of Cities, the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, for its health insurance for employees. We've recently been contacted by the prior HR director for some guidance on some compliance matters related to the ACA and a few other compliance-related matters. And in that conversation kind of developed as that conversation developed a little further, it became apparent that we might be able to bring some value to the city. So what we did is kind of did a market study for the city and determined that there's a substantial potential for savings in the program that you currently have, and we'd like to talk to you about that tonight. So I'm going to introduce JD Curls. JD is a benefits consultant with Gallagher, and Ryan Whittington, who is a voluntary benefits consultant with Gallagher. So I'm going to let them walk through the presentation, and I may have a couple things to say towards the end of it. Thank you.
Good evening. Y'all got the air conditioner working well in here, by the way. So like I said, my name is JD Curls. I'm a benefit consultant with Gallagher. And we just kind of want to walk through what we found in the market scan and how we believe it could benefit the city. If I can get this to work right. There we go. So this is a quick agenda. We'll start with employee benefits consulting, move to compliance consulting, the core benefits, voluntary benefits, and then finish up with some questions at the end. Well, it goes that way. There we go. So employee benefits consulting, what does that mean? Basically, if you see here on this presentation, we have City of Lake City in the center of that circle. So what we kind of act as an extension of the professional HR team and finance director team when it comes to the building and things of that nature for the health and welfare program. We can help with all of the things surrounding the city there. Compliance support, which is kind of how we got started here. Moving to issue resolution, project management, vendor management, things of that nature. Some of the other things we do is we proactively manage the renewal process. So we're not a reactive team, we're proactive. So we're going to go to the market from the very beginning and say, hey, what does it look like? What does the renewals look like? How are we going to be able to negotiate these to make sure that it's the best deal for the city? So the dollars that the city is spending are where they need to be. The next would be compliance consulting. This is just a snapshot real quick of a lot of things that we do, not limited to what's on here. One of the things that I do want to point out on here real quick is, and I put compliance consulting because again, that's how we first came to the city to help out. If you see that we have 30+ employee benefits attorneys and consultants that we staff, we have one that sits out of our office in Orlando. And what they do is they help with any issues that come up that are compliant, such as ACA, HIPAA, COBRA, any things of that nature. We can send them questions, they can answer those questions, and usually we have in about a 24-hour turnaround. From what I understand from talking with the past director and some other folks in the HR department is that is something that is lacking severely right now with your current plans. There is no compliance help. So if there is issues, they do email FMIT to find out exactly what's going on. It may be a significant amount of time before they find out an answer or a resolution on those things. With us, you're not going to have that time. You're going to have a quick turnaround, and this is a major thing. One of the other things that I want to point out real quick is you see over there in the green, the bi-monthly directions newsletters. There's over 100 articles and 47,000 downloads that are available to our clients that they can go in so they can search. They get a letter that's sent to them twice a month via email. That they can look at, and it has different compliance issues that are ongoing or upcoming due to some changes that are, in our business. So what we're here for and what we present mostly is our core benefits, medical, dental, vision, life, things of that nature. So what this is this is the comparison that we did. If you look there on the left side, you'll see current UHC. That is the current plan that you have now that the city offers through FMIT. Down at the bottom, these are the most updated rates with the for the renewal rates that have come out for this year. Excuse me. What we did was we did a comparison of plans. When you go from one carrier to another carrier, you're not always going to get the exact same plans. So there's a few differences between the plans, but generally speaking, they're exactly the same. Quickly, what I'll point out on the plans, if you look on the Florida Blue plans for the maximum out of pocket, it's on about the 4th or 5th line down. There's a little bit of a difference in the cost, or not the cost, excuse me, the maximum out of pocket. One plan, it does go up a little bit, but on the other plan, it does go down as well. So there's a give and take. Same thing on the deductible for out-of-network and max out-of-pocket for the out-of-network on those plans as well. So what we also did was, the two plans that you have are PPO plans, so you can use the benefits out-of-network. What we decided and we looked at was to bring in an HMO plan, or a more limited network, for a second or third option that may be a little bit less expensive than the others. Kind of a middle-of-the-road plan, if you will. So we were able to bring that in. A couple of things that I want to point out to you at the bottom, and this is where this page really shines for us. If you look there on the, it says at the very top, it says BO 5192/3. If you come all the way down to the bottom, it has the rates listed. And you'll see that percent change by plan. There's a negative 32% change on that particular plan, which is the HSA plan, the same as the health savings account plan. If you look just to the right of that, you're going to see 16.95% rate of change. So these are the new proposed rates by Florida Blue, changing to a different carrier that is Florida Blue. But off the total, there's a 19.5% rate decrease. What that equates to is about $541,000 of savings to the city. Okay, with a direct savings to the city of approximately $460,000. Okay, because your employees do fund a portion of the rate. So by moving these plans to the proposed Florida Blue plan, you're going to save about $500,000. Okay, that's a significant savings. Okay, we did go to other carriers. One was a deep decline to quote, so they said they didn't want to because they could not compete with the rates that you currently had. These did, so we wanted to bring this. The next is dental. The dental, again, we compared the same rates, or excuse me, the same plans to same plans. And what you see here is exactly the same thing across the board. And then down at the bottom, there is the rates that are there. They are they're not going to say significantly different, but there is some savings there of about $2,500 additionally with the dental rates. We'll move on to vision. Vision here, quickly, there's a little bit of a difference between the proposed plan and the current plan. One is the exam copay. There is a $0 copay proposed. You're paying $10 now. And the rates are, on this one, they did go up a little bit, so they're a little more, but it's a better plan than what you currently have. But if you look at the top there, the rate guarantee, which is the 3rd or 4th line down, there's a 4-year rate guarantee. So these rates for dental, or excuse me, for vision, are going to be the same for 4 years before we see any movement on anything. The next is the basic life. So currently, there's not a basic life that you currently have for your employees. So what we did was we went to the market and said, okay, let's do a one-time salary, $25,000, $50,000, and let's see what they have. So the best came back at the one-time salary. So you would fund this would be a city funded for their employee benefit for the employees at a one-time rate up to $50,000. So, you know, anybody that makes over $50,000, they would get a $50,000 plan. And it comes, and the way that you would utilize this, obviously, is from some of the savings that you're receiving by changing plans. And it's about a $22,000 annual premium there. Yep, that's what I want to say on that. Short-term disability, this is also something that is not that you don't currently have. This is proposed as a voluntary plan So the employees would be able to select this if they wanted to do a short-term disability plan. This is for 12 weeks duration, and it's a what we call a 312. So if I say this wrong every time.
The pre-existing condition
Thank you.
limitation is a 3-month look back, which means if you've had a sickness or injury in the prior 3 months to enrolling in that plan, that specific illness or injury would not be covered for the first 12 months of the plan. So there is a little bit of a pre-existing limitation.
Thank you. I'd say that wrong every single time. The next that we have is the long-term disability. This is something that you currently have and you currently offer to your employees as a benefit. The city pays for it. You're currently with Lincoln Financial. The benefit monthly maximum is set at $5,000. And it's again a 312, so the same as before. What is proposed, the major difference there is the monthly maximum benefit would be moved to $7,500. So 60% of the salary up to $7,500. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Wasn't able to show a comparison because we didn't have the rates for that, but you can see there at the bottom that the annual premium on that's about $37,000. One of the things that's lacking now is, and has been in the past, is education on what the employees actually have and assistance from someone to help the employees if they have issues. So what we proposed is bringing in what we call the Benefit Advocacy Center or Benefit Advocate Center. It's a 1-800 number that your employees can call at any time. Well, I'm not gonna say any time. They have extended hours because they're located across the country. They're licensed and trained benefit counselors where they're able to answer questions on your employees' benefits. So they are trained on the city's benefits so they can help answer any questions that they have, such as, locating network providers, finding out that, explaining in and out of network benefits. So how does the plan actually work? How are looking for? Prescription coverages, authorization issues. I know everybody's had an issue where they've come to need a prescription and then it's not covered here, so you got to get an authorization and this, that, and the other. So they would be able to help out with those issues going forward. For any out-of-network stuff, they would be able to help out with any balance billing and outstanding claim issues. So if there's something going on where they just don't understand it or they need some help, this is where this Benefit Advocacy Center comes in. So the hours there at the bottom are 8 to 6 p.m. So we have them across the country. They're medical experts on staff as well. One of the other things that we discussed was an employee assistance program. What you see here is just kind of a word diagram of things that your employees bring to work. When your employee comes to work, it's not just bringing their work self, they're bringing their whole self to work. So there's a lot of things that go on that they have to deal with at home that they bring to work. So the employee assistance program is something that not only helps with mental health, but it also has family, where they can talk to someone about family issues, legal issues and financial issues, and there's different, opportunities for them to discuss with someone, either in person or via phone, where they can help get those, and there's different sessions that they can talk to throughout the year if they need to. The last thing that we were asked about was a wellness program. It's kind of blurry, I see. So we can help set up a wellness program. We were able to we have a team that comes together. We have a lot of literature that shows you exactly how to set up a wellness program, how it needs to be managed, how it needs to be run. And these are just a few of the things that this is some of the things that we can do, though you don't need to implement all of these right off the bat for a wellness program, but these are some of the things that help. And the reason you want a wellness program is it does help mitigate some of the costs on the claims side. So if you can get someone to be a little healthier, make a little bit better decision on, their diet, their exercise, it'll bring the claims down. I'm not going to say it's significant, but it does help with the claims portion of it. I'm going to turn the next to Ryan.
And so moving on to the voluntary benefits piece, these are 100% paid for by employees. There are no costs to the city for implementing and having voluntary benefits. So we got a few options: accident insurance, which will pay you if you have an accident. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it pays you directly if you have an accident. And that money is used to help cover any out-of-pocket expenses that someone may have with their medical insurance, your deductibles, your co-pays, the co-insurance that you have to meet. Critical illness and cancer plan, this pays you a lump sum benefit if you have a major illness, and it's guaranteed issue, no medical questions asked, and there are no pre-existing condition limitations. So as long as you are diagnosed after the effective date, you are covered. And you can enroll up to a $30,000 benefit. If you're diagnosed, let's say with cancer, then you would receive that $30,000 and it's your money to spend however you want. You could use it to pay your medical bills, you could use it to go to Disney, it's your money. The hospital indemnity plan will cover you if you're in the hospital for any reason, sickness or injury or pregnancy. It's guaranteed issue, no medical questions asked, and there are no pre-existing condition limitations. So you cannot be denied coverage from your prior medical history for wanting to enroll in this plan. And lastly, life insurance with long-term care. We all know long-term care is a major problem in America right now. 7 out of 10 Americans are at some point in their life need long-term care services. So this is a life insurance with long-term care that has 2 buckets of money where you can utilize a death benefit paid to your beneficiaries or living benefits to use on yourself for long-term care services. This is the only insurance product that's going to exist where you are guaranteed to use a benefit. And the way that, do you want to talk about the opt-out?
No, go ahead and finish up. We'll go back.
The way that we are going to educate and communicate on all of these plans, all the changes from medical, dental, vision, life, disability, voluntary plans is by utilizing our enrollment solutions team. We can set up benefit counselors, they're licensed agent, benefit counselors trained on your specific benefits. They are salaried folks, they do not make commission, so they are not enticed to sell anything. Their only job is to educate and communicate on all the plans in a private one-on-one consultation with each person, and then they can ask questions in that one-on-one setting. And that benefit counselor will help them enroll in all the plans.
Right, I'm going to come up and just talk really briefly about this opt-out program. This is really, as we mentioned earlier, Jenny mentioned how we were first kind of re-engaged here in the city back in, I think it's January or February, sometime in that time frame. There was some concern about the city's current opt-out program, which essentially provides a cash benefit to employees who elect not to participate in the city's group health insurance program. Although that's kind of an admirable approach to people and maybe even financially or economically sensical to do, there are some complications that are presented from a compliance standpoint relative to the Affordable Care Act and some of the provisions that it requires employers to abide by. One of those is that, and this is probably the primary and the most problematic one with the city, is in order to, so the government in its wisdom developed this program in a way to require certain employers, large employers, over 50 employees, obviously the city meets that criteria, to provide a level of benefits to its employees. If you're not under that level, you're under 50 employees, the requirements are different. They don't apply, but you're over. And one of those is that you have to meet, your health insurance plan has to meet certain minimum guidelines, yours does, and you also have to meet what's called an affordability test, meaning that you have to pay a certain percentage of the premium such that the portion that the employee pays is affordable and meets this test. And there's various definitions, and the city's does meet the affordability in all cases. So you're in compliance on your group health plan. The issue is that the government didn't want you to pay people to get off of your group health plan, and especially not to get off of your group health plan and go to the individual marketplace and get a tax credit or a subsidy. So they wanted that burden to be on the employer. So the plan that's currently in place provides a cash benefit to people to not be on the health plan. And that is okay as long as the employee can provide documentation that they are on a qualified group health plan elsewhere. That does not include Medicare, that does not include VA, that does not include the individual marketplace, only qualified group health plan coverage. So you can kind of do that up front. The problem is what happens if there's a change during the course of the year and you're not made aware of it? You're out of compliance. And even though you didn't do anything wrong, you are out of compliance, and the penalties can be very steep for being out of compliance. So we have some concern about that. We brought that to the attention of the HR team here, and it is a little bit troublesome. So our suggestion is that you reconsider that current opt-out program, and perhaps rather than a cash benefit, provide some other form of benefits that would be compliant. Many times we see employers who do this provide a package of benefits that might include dental insurance, vision insurance, life insurance, short-term disability insurance, maybe some other package of products that has equivalent value to what you have provided them in cash. And by the way, those benefits, when you provide them to them under a Section 125 plan, are tax-free to the employee, whereas the cash benefit is taxable. So there's some advantages to the employee as well, potentially. But we just want to bring that to your attention and make sure that you're aware that that could be troublesome, and we really think you should address it in a different way than it's currently being addressed. So I think that was really it for our presentation. You know, in summary, the deal is you have an option on the table now that's much more financially sound option, save the city $500,000. You have some new benefits that would be available to employees that are better, less costly, better underwriting, the ones Ryan talked about. And I think Gallagher will bring, well, no doubt, Gallagher will bring a high degree of professionalism to your whole benefits program, including employee education, communication, enrollment process, and of course, ongoing support, whether it be direct with the employee through the Benefit Advocate Center or through the compliance team with the 30 ERISA attorneys who are on staff to kind of support your team here. By the way, our attorneys don't provide legal advice, but they are available to you as the city attorney should you ever have any questions that are kind of outside the realm of your expertise. So always good to know there's backup there. So anyway, thank you for your time, allowing us to present this to you tonight. We hope you'll consider it favorably as we move through the process. I certainly don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Would be happy to answer any questions at this point in time too.
Mr. Mayor, two questions. When is your open enrollment?
So the city's annual anniversary date is October 1st. So open enrollment usually occurs, 30 to 60 days in advance of that. So we would propose probably open enrollment in the early part of August, early to mid part of August. So we're probably, 3 weeks out from that?
Okay.
Something like that. If it needs to go beyond that, you can do it all the way up till October 1st.
That's right.
But what we like to do is allow time for the post-enrollment administrative work to be done so that the bills are clean, employees have time to get their ID cards, all of the logistics and details that have to be worked out.
Okay. My second question is that, so I've never heard of Gallagher, so I'm just trying to figure out how long Gallagher has been around, because I've never heard of it. And can you kind of like explain that to me just a little bit? I heard him talking, but
Yeah.
I've never heard of Gallagher.
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit, and I'll let these guys tell you a little bit.
No, you just tell me. And
Okay, all right, I'll tell you. So Parks Johnson Agency was my firm, and we were a local employee benefits firm here in Lake City. I sold the firm to Gallagher about 10 years ago. Gallagher is the third largest employee benefits and risk management firm in the world. About 40,000 plus employees all over the world, headquartered in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, with offices all over the world. Financially sound, deep, a mile wide and a mile deep in terms of the resources that it contributes. And frankly, the Affordable Care Act, which I mentioned,
Yes,
was the impetus for me considering selling my firm, because I, as a local, smaller firm, didn't have 30 ERISA attorneys on staff
Okay.
that I could rely on, and I needed it because our clients deserve that. And so I'm happy to partner with Gallagher now to work with the city and others, to provide that level of resources.
So you say all over the world, so I leave here and go to a place like Trinidad or Mexico, or I can get covered over there.
Well, yeah, so Gallagher serves as a broker or broker and a consultant. The companies would be like Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida would be your medical. And yeah, if you went to Trinidad or Tobago or, Mexico, I think you said Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah, you have worldwide coverage, or, any of the other programs that we discussed tonight, yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
90 years, thank you.
90 years.
1927, something like that, 1923, I don't know. Yeah.
Thank y'all very much.
Okay.
I have a question. So the numbers I was looking at, the 541 in savings, and if I calculated right on the dental, that's another 30,000 in savings roughly. That does not include the opt-out or removing that 100,000. So really we could get closer to about almost 700,000 in savings.
Yeah, but I think if you redesign the opt-out, you may just want to consider, just because you do have employees who participate in that, you may want to reconsider just allocating the same funding just in a different direction as opposed to cash funding, benefits funding. And the reason I say that is just, from a morale standpoint, taking something away that you're currently giving might be a difficult sell, especially when the savings in the other areas, you're able to realize are what they are.
Anything else? Yes. Sure.
How long are the rates locked in for?
The medical rates are a year, which, medical rates are always going to be an annual thing. I've never seen medical rates locked in beyond that. I think the dental rate is a 1-year rate guarantee. The vision was a 4-year rate guarantee. The life insurance is a 2-year rate guarantee. Long-term disability was a 2-year rate guarantee. So yeah, they're locked in at that.
Sure.
On the, if you have someone who has a major medical issue, with our current plan, you're assigned like a nurse that follows you through your entire process. If that process takes a year, 2 years, does this plan offer that same level of service to our staff that would possibly need that?
So Florida Blue, obviously, there's, I'm gonna give you two different layers of support, if you will. Florida Blue, from the nurse or the clinical standpoint, would offer the support there through their nurse care coordinators and or case managers.
Yes.
And they will, they'll kind of follow you along through that process. And it's good because what they're able to do is, work with you and your medical team to ensure that, you're following the right path, that, the medical team is kind of in touch with what the benefits are and how things will be, so you have no surprises.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing that I had previously asked, and she's already clarified this, but I want the council members to hear this as well. Your insurance deductible, it restarts in January, but with us starting the new plan, it was important for everyone to know that they have agreed to recognize if you've met 100% of your deductible already for this year, to recognize that, so you're not hitting reset on October 1.
Right, so you don't go back to
Right.
zero on October 1.
And
Whatever
that's
you've
to be
met through
accepted.
September 30th, you get full credit for. Now, logistically speaking, it does take, you have to get a report. Florida Blue would have to get a report from the current carrier saying, each employee has met this much of their out-of-pocket maximum and deductible, and then get that into their system. And that report doesn't come out usually for 30 days or so after. So there is a little bit of crossover. I'm just being candid. There's a little crossover there where somebody who may have met their deductible at October 1 is seeking medical services on October 15.
That's why I do know some stat that definitely will impact.
Yeah, and so the way that's where the Benefit Advocate Center jumps in and helps kind of go to Florida Blue and say, hey, we've got this employee, we know they've met their deductible, or even call the provider and say, can you please not file the claim yet until this is processed, because the claim is when it hits the claim system, that's how you know whether you've met a deductible or out-of-pocket maximum yet. Yeah.
And we're talking about the elimination period on the long term. If we're swapping, changing the current long-term plan that we have now.
Disability you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we go to the new plan, I saw or heard one of them mention that there's that elimination.
Pre-existing
for pre-existing.
As currently on the current plan.
That would only be for new people. Anybody who's on the current plan would come over.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was kind of my question on
Yeah,
that.
no.
Okay. And then a lot of the other little things I've already, I get with her all the time, I aggravate her with all my questions, so I do appreciate it. I just wanted to hear definitely about the deductible though.
Yeah, well, those are all very
Again,
good
thank y'all
questions.
for coming.
Thank you, and you pointed to
Yep.
Billy Joe.
I
Y'all
got it.
done really good with her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're at item 5, Deputy Taylor.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I give this piece of document to every one of you?
Sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. Thank you for allowing me to make a presentation to you in this agenda today. I was here 2 times before today, and I had to abide by the 3-minute rule, so it restricted my presentation. But today I felt it was important for me to kind of elaborate where we stand today and what steps needs to be taken as far as we are concerned. So let me, it's unfortunate Mrs. Young is not here, my council member Jake is not here, so I wanted everybody to hear this today. But having said that, the 2 council members and Mayor, I hope you guys are practical enough to understand why I've been coming here often. I do not think the city staff or the attorney has given any serious consideration to my appeal. In fact, the city attorney remains silent and oblivious, restricting me from presenting the facts. City Council acts as a legislative branch of the city government, as well as its policy-making body. They create policies to govern the district and make sure that any existing or new laws are applied correctly to serve the needs of the people who live and work in their district. The city's land development regulations are approved by the City Council. Therefore, you have the authority to interpret the LDRs and its application. I'm requesting that the City Council approves today a motion for the City Council to conduct a public hearing on whether the proposed development authorized by City Permit 46609 for Gateway Crossing is a truck stop or an automotive service station under Section 2.1 definition of the Land Development Regulation. We believe that the proposed expansion of the existing Circle K development at Gateway Crossing constitutes a truck stop. They have food preparation facilities and overnight parking spots. Let me remind all of you that the size of the facility is not a determining factor in defining a type of business. It is the LDR's language what defines a category of business. That means I could build a 10-room or a 100-room hotel. It is still a hotel. I could build, or you could build, a 6 parking spot for a truck stop or a 100 parking spot for a truck stop. It is still a truck stop under LDR's definition. I can sit down in a restaurant like Texas Roadhouse Or I can go to a Subway sandwich shop. It is still a restaurant. So let's talk about what a truck stop means. You have a document which states the definition of a truck stop, an automated service station, and a restaurant. A truck stop is defined under city's LDR, an establishment where the principal use is primarily the refueling and servicing of trucks and tractor-trailer rigs. Such establishment may have restaurant or snack bars and sleeping accommodations for the drivers of such over-the-road equipment and may provide facilities for repair and maintenance of such equipment. Now, understand that the repair and maintenance is an option. It is not necessary to have that to be called a truck stop. In this case, they do have a facility where they make food, packaged food, and they make fresh food in their store. They've got sitting arrangements for people to sit and eat, and they have 6 parking spots. Okay? So, it's common sense what this is. This is exactly what the proposed new expansion is. A new high-speed diesel fuel servicing stations, which is primarily used for refueling large trucks and tractor-trailer rigs. This is exactly what the definition states. There is no dispute that this is a CHI zoning district, commercial highway interchange under LDR 4.15. There is no dispute that the LDR 4.15, 5.1 requires truck stop to be approved as a special exception. There is no dispute that no special exception application or hearing has been required by the city staff. The permit that is proposed development, the permit says this proposed development is approved as a convenience store with fuel and diesel. Remember this, as a convenience store with fuel and diesel. There is no such permitting use under the present city's LDR. So since I and others, such as the TDC, and the public have complained and raised concern, the county officials have raised concern, the city attorney has attempted to defend the city staff rather than to recognize the simple mistake made at the outset. Instead of recognizing that the proposed use is for trucks refueling, and the city attorney has tried to use a tortured reading of the LDR to suggest that this proposed use is an automated service station. How in the world can this be an automated service station? The definition of automated service station is completely different. No one is suggesting that the existing Circle K is not an automated service station under the LDR. But that is not the issue. The issue is, how can the new proposed expansion be an automated service station as approved by the permit? It clearly defies logic. High-speed diesel fueling stations are primarily used to refuel semi-trucks and tractor-trailer rigs and not automobiles. This is directly implicating the definition of LDR. It is wrongly applied here. This is nothing but a truck stop, and it needs special exception. So let's discuss what an automated service station means. The definition of automated service station makes it clear that automated service stations are primarily for refueling an automobile. What is the definition of an automobile? Four-wheeled vehicle carrying passengers. A semi-truck is not a four-wheel vehicle carrying passengers. High-speed diesel fuel service pumps are not built to refuel automobiles. The definition of automated service station also makes it very clear under the LDR that it is a different use from a truck stop. City's LDR clearly states an automated service station is not a repair garage, a body shop, a truck stop, or a car wash, or a combination thereof. So this particular development, what is happening is, on the south side, you have service pumps to refuel cars. On the north side, which is an expansion and addition, service station, high fuel diesel pumps to service trucks. And the city calls it the entire whole package as an automated service station or a convenience store, which is not even defined in the LDR. Think about it. And the LDR clearly defines it cannot be a combination of both. It's either an automated service station or a truck stop. Therefore, the LDR makes very clear that an automated service station is not a truck stop, nor it is a combination of automated service station and a truck stop. There is no definition of such business in city's LDR, as I said before. In addition, the definition of automated service station is very specific, where such motor fuel pumps are erected in conjunction with a use which is not an automated service station. In this case, it is not. Each use shall be considered as a separate principal use. This is extremely important here. You cannot combine these two into one and call it as an automated service station. The LDR clearly states this, that it has to be considered as a separate principal use. And as such, each must meet all applicable requirements of this land development regulation. This means it needs a special exception if you want to build this. I'm concerned that the city attorney seems intent on preventing me from having the due process. And I've came here 2 times. But I don't see that the city attorney is trying to allow me to present my case and the facts. I have every right to be heard. And when the city makes a decision in contravention of the LDR, its own definition, and you have the authority to set the course right. The effect of this is to compound the errors made by the city staff at the outset when they failed to require special exception application and public notice and public hearing for the special exception. The LDR is clear that a truck stop requires a special exception. Under the LDR, special exception requires a public hearing with a public notice and with notice posted on the site. None of that happened here. There was no public notice, there was no public hearing, there was no notice posted at the site, all in violation of the LDR. As you all recall, we filed an appeal. I received a letter from the city attorney that I will be allowed to present in front of you. We were preparing for it. And then a few days before the hearing, we received another letter that your case would be heard by the P&Z board. Okay, so we thought the P&Z board is going to hear our case, and that's usually the process. But then we are hearing that the city attorney is not going to allow us to present our evidence and the facts. That means throw the appeal out and not hear Nick out. This board, this body cannot allow that to happen. Really. When a mistake has occurred. All this to try to sweep under the rug a mistake made from the outset by failing to require special exception, which is required for a truck stop, followed by a public notice and a public hearing on whether a truck stop is appropriate for this interchange. Therefore, I'm asking the City Council to set a public hearing for the City Council to determine whether or not that proposed use under the permit is a truck stop or not. You approved the LDRs and have the authority to determine what the LDR means, whether it's a truck stop or whether it's an automated service station. It can be both. It has to be either or. I'm glad, I'll be glad to take any questions. I have a few more things to say, but I'll be glad to take any questions here from anybody. If the city attorney would like to ask me a question, I'll be happy to take
I
any
don't have any
questions.
questions.
Okay.
To clarify, it has been a longer process than we would have liked to try to figure out what the appropriate mechanism is. The process at this point of scheduling the hearing, we've been in discussions with Mr. Norris, my co-counsel Scott Walker. I think we had a conference call last week or the week before. We have come to the conclusion that Mr. Patel deserves the notice that was not given. That particular meeting, for whatever reason, was not published. And we are scheduling what's called a de novo hearing where Mr. Patel will be able to present any and all facts and evidence he feels pertinent through his representatives. The city will likewise present their findings. Circle K can present theirs, and the local planning and zoning board will then make a determination afresh as to whether or not to approve the site. So we'll get exactly what you requested.
And if somebody, either side or whatever, is not happy with the planning and zoning, would the appeal be to us or to?
I believe the appeal will be, I can help me, I think it's to the Board of Adjustment under our current LDR. I was trying to anticipate what Mr. Patel was gonna say because we didn't have any packet information. And so in conference with Mr. Walker, we're prepared to make that announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Kennon. Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'm Guy Norris here in Lake City. Happy to represent Mr. Patel and his company, Florida Gateway Hotels LLC, the owner and operator of the True Hotels out on US 90 in the Gateway Crossing subdivision. So I will say that some of the information I'm receiving right now from Mr. Kennon here in the meeting is a little different than the short conference call that I had with the other city attorney, Mr. Scott Walker. In that meeting, it was suggested to us exactly what Mr. Patel has mentioned tonight, which is we were being told in effect that back in July, when the Planning and Zoning Board, which is exactly the same as your Board of Adjustment, there is, in the city, there is no difference. Your Planning and Zoning Board is your Board of Adjustment. So, Mr. Mayor, from the standpoint of the question, can you appeal from the Planning and Zoning Board to the Board of Adjustment? The answer is no. In effect, that would be like us asking the judge for a rehearing when at a bench trial, right? It would be effectively the same thing. You're asking that trier of fact to change their mind. What I would like to focus, as opposed to getting into all the weeds of the legal process and the ins and outs, are what Mr. Patel is talking about. Look, the fact of the matter is the definitions there are pretty straightforward. There is a definition of a truck stop. There's a definition of an automobile service station. They are not the same thing. In fact, the definition of automobile service station specifically says, and by the way, whatever I am, I'm not a truck stop, and I'm not a combination of whatever I am and a truck stop. I'm something different. Then a truck stop says, and what is that? Well, primarily it means it serves automobiles. And what is a truck stop? Well, primarily it's something that serves trucks. Okay, and so here's the deal. An application came in from an applicant that said, I want to do a high-speed diesel fuel station. That's exactly what the application document says. High-speed fuel diesel station. Now, if you're on the city staff, that does not say this is an automobile service station. That should say this is a truck stop. High-speed fuel diesel doesn't go in regular Joe automobiles. That wasn't done, because had it said it was a truck stop, as Mr. Patel said, it's undisputed. 4.15.5.1, special exception, truck stop. If it's a truck stop, it requires a special exception. A special exception requires public notice, public hearing, posting on the site that there's going to be a hearing on a special exception. That was not done. So now getting to the legal issue, what we were told was you didn't show up for a meeting in July of 2022, so therefore your time for the appeal has passed, and we're not going to hear your evidence. And so, with all due respect to my good friend, old law school classmate, known him for 1,000 years, Mr. Kennan, and I'm not disputing what he's saying, I'm just telling you that has not yet been communicated to me, and I've sought to contact Mr. Walker every day since Thursday without a response so far. Now, none of that prevents this city council from doing exactly what Mr. Patel has asked you to do. And that is for you to pass a motion, for you to have a public hearing in which you interpret your own LDR and decide whether or not that proposed use is a truck stop or not. And I would simply say, if you allow us that public hearing, we'll argue that before you then, but I'll simply say this. You have a permit that says what is the permitted use is a convenience store with fuel and diesel. Your land development regulations do not use the term convenience store anywhere. There is no such thing under your land development regulation. It also doesn't talk about fuel per se, or diesel. It's automobile service station or a truck stop. And then under the automobile service station, and it would apply to other uses as well, it says, and when you have some other principal use, like being a restaurant, that Circle K under your LDRs constitutes a restaurant. Mr. Patel's hotel, because they serve some food under the LDRs, constitutes a restaurant. And when you hit that one primary use, pumping fuel, you also have to hit the other primary use of meeting the term of a restaurant. And if you're a truck stop, you gotta meet the primary use of being a truck stop. You gotta be approved as a truck stop. And the one thing that I am sure that Mr. Kennan would agree with me is that to date, this city has not approved that permit as a truck stop. They didn't do it. They didn't get a special exception. They didn't do it. You know, I've represented other municipal or government boards, and there's a tendency when something goes wrong at the staff level, the city attorney or the attorney for the board circles the wagons to defend, as opposed to just saying, you know what? We made a mistake. We made a mistake. Now, what can we do to fix it? Because right now, your city staff is driving you right into litigation. And that would be a pity. It doesn't need to happen. So I sure hope that cooler heads will prevail on that. I hope that the final three that are here tonight, I believe you still have a quorum, that the final three will grant Mr. Patel's request for a public hearing before this city council to determine whether or not what that use is. Is that a truck stop? Is it a automobile service station? Which is it? I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Again, to reiterate, this is going to be scheduled in August at a specially announced meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board to allow Mr. Patel to present his evidence as if he was given notice of the original hearing for the P and Z to consider the site plan. And would also note that, again, this is on the agenda as a presentation, not as a possible action discussion item. So I can merely give the council my advice, and that is to allow the process to follow the LDRs, to go through a public hearing with all sides being able to present their evidence before the Planning and Zoning Board. They will make a decision and we'll go from there. That is my advice.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
do we have a date for that?
As soon as Mr. Walker gets back from Philadelphia, hopefully tonight, we will be scheduling that. Mr. Angelo has requested a special meeting so that the participants aren't, as happened tonight, sitting there for an hour and a half before they can get to the presentation. That will be the only agenda item for that meeting. It will be in August, hopefully earlier August.
Mr. Jernigan, hold your thought. Sorry, just hold your thought. I think the issue we have, honestly, is we know this board wants to do the right thing, and I get it. You know, you want to, even when I came here for the first time, there were a few of you who really felt that you guys need to be educated on it and be informed. I just feel that whatever communication we have received so far has been what the other side is telling these guys to do. And that's all we receive. If Circle K is telling them this is what it is, that's what we hear. Rather than being independent. In fact, Circle K responded to our appeal. We didn't even get the letter. When we appeal, we send the copy to Circle K. But when Circle K wrote the letter, we didn't receive the letter. You cannot hide this thing under the rug. Therefore, I'm going to once again say this. There are serious consequences if this development goes through without proper scrutiny from this council. And I know it is difficult for you guys. I know you didn't ask for this. But isn't the reason why you're elected? Isn't the reason why you're here? To search for the truth? And to do the right thing?
But we legally can't take action tonight, not the way it's on the agenda.
Sure. I wish Mr. Hill was here to talk about this as well. But my question is, how did we miss that? I mean, I listened to your case, and it's cut and dry to me that we made a mistake. It's cut and dry to me. Now, I'm not saying Mr. Hill feels that way, or the mayor, or Todd, or Shavela. I'm just trying to figure out, how did we allow that to happen on the planning and zoning, LDR, whatever? How did they miss that? And the rules are right there. I'm looking at the rules. I could read the rules, and I could see the definition of an apple. You know, I could see it. So how did we miss it? What happened? And that's not the question to you. The question is to the city attorney. How did we miss that? And again, I appreciate the attorney giving you an opportunity to hear your case. And not only that, I appreciate you for coming up and educating a person like me on this particular matter, because I had no idea. But now I'm fully educated on it. Okay? Go ahead.
There are serious consequences of this. Not only what we presented, these are another thing, there's a lot of things. The traffic study's flawed, actually. There is tremendous risk to commuters. If an accident happens tomorrow and the number of cars which goes at that exit, not only that, if you guys remember, anytime there's a hurricane, Lake City is a mobilization place. You got 2,000 trucks down here. And now you want to do this? Not only that, you want to erect a 100-foot sign and say truck diesel and then call it as an automotive service station? Think about it. So we just want to present a fact. And I feel that Tony has not been very open, candid, clear with us. And I get it, he's trying to protect the staff. And I get it. You know? But there is always an iota of doubt in my mind that I'll get a fair hearing. And that's why I come here. To tell you guys that, listen, this is a truck stop. And something needs to be done. So I'll leave it up to you, Mayor.
Okay.
And look, this is not difficult, this is not easy for you, Mayor. But I've known you for a long time and you have to do the right thing.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a clarifying question on that. So if we go through in August with the appeal, regardless of which way,
It's not an appeal.
okay,
Mr. Patel has asked to be heard, and essentially, for lack of a better way to say it, the process will start over on the site plan review, giving him the full opportunity to present his case.
so does that mean that the current permit number 46609 is not valid currently?
That would be our position.
Okay, so it's like, so we're resetting the entire process from the beginning.
Process.
I appreciate, if I may, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized? Councilman Sampson, I appreciate you raising that point, because that's the exact point I wanted to come back to inquire about, because as I say, we're learning about this right now as we speak. This has not been communicated to me as counsel for Florida Gateway Hotels prior to, in the course of this conversation. I would just submit this. I don't know how under the LDR you do that. If what I understand Mr. Kennan is saying is that the city attorney or the growth management department or someone, maybe it's through the planning and zoning board or the board of adjustment, but somehow, apparently, it is being suggested that you're revoking a permit that you previously issued. It is the permit that we appeal. Okay? Now, I think that's ultimately the right result, and I appreciate the efforts to get to the right result. But it's the reason that we are asking for the council to make a motion to have a hearing to interpret its own land development regulations as to whether or not that happens. So I guess I'll stand down on the issue with regard to the appeal, in the sense of apparently I'm now being told that in effect, we're going back to square one of applying for a special exception as a truck stop?
There would be a de novo hearing, yes.
Well,
De novo.
with no permit. There's no permit.
I'm not-
I mean, who's the applicant?
That will have to be discussed with Mr. Walker. But what I'm telling you, Mr. Morris, and it's, the last thing I can really tell you is that you've asked for the chance to be heard, and you're going to get that full chance. Now, the specifics of the permit and all that, myself and Mr. Walker have not worked that out. But I am telling you, in front of this council, that there will be a do-over as far as the presentation of all the facts, so that you can argue your definitions, they can argue their definitions, and there'll be a decision.
And Mr. Norris,
Fascinating.
Todd, when I spoke to, say we decided to have a hearing, and we sat here, we listened to both sides all day long, and we go, yep, this is the definition of a truck stop. Then Circle K goes in and says, okay, we're a truck stop, so now we're gonna ask for a special exception. So they're back at the planning and zoning board.
Sure.
But right now, Todd's
They're back
saying
at the
that y'all have
planning and zoning.
board.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't mean to interrupt.
He's saying y'all will be in front of the planning and zoning board in August. We set a hearing, we probably set it in September. We make a decision, then y'all go back to the thing, y'all be 6 months. Long, it seems like to me, if they're having a new hearing, doing the same thing a special exception would, I don't see why we would hear it.
Well, right now, we don't know what kind of hearing we're getting.
Okay.
We understand, Mr. Mayor, that Mr. Kennan is saying that it's a de novo hearing.
Right.
Means, right, from the start, that we're gonna take evidence.
Right.
The land development regulations provide that if it's a truck stop, it requires a special exception.
Right.
Okay, so if the applicant was applying for a special exception, then Mr. Patel's company, hopefully through me, would come in and object to that special exception. And I suspect that with the public notice and the public hearing and the posting of the site, you'll have all kinds of people in there objecting to the special exception. That would be my suspicion as to what will happen.
Well, maybe.
But that's not what I've heard so far, right? I've heard that the permits, and at Mr. Sampson's question, apparently the permit's revoked.
I didn't, no, I'm saying we have to work that out on how we deal with that with Circle K. What I'm telling you is, once we get those legalities worked out, the issue of whether it is a truck stop, since that's how it's phrased, will be heard with everybody having a clear first shot.
Well, I'm
with all
going,
their evidence.
I respect that. I will simply go out on the limb that the lawyer for Circle K, who first of all, Circle K is neither the applicant, nor the owner, nor represented by an agent in any application filed before this city. Second, I'm going to go out on a limb that the Circle K attorney that writes to the city council, to city council's attorneys, and tells them that there's no food sold at that Circle K, is not going to be happy to hear that the permit is being revoked by magic.
That's your words, Mr. Holmes.
That's my words.
I'm telling you that the legalities of that have to be situated.
The legalities have to be situated among people who have no authority to make the decision. With all due respect to them and to the advice that they, good advice that they can give to the city council. I get it. But what I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Mayor, is number one, as you well know, the city council can put anything it wants to on an agenda. You have emergency powers and other powers to agenda any item that comes before the board that you deem by good cause should be on the agenda, and it can be agended tonight and voted on tonight as to whether or not to conduct that public hearing that we've requested. You would not vote to decide the issue, you would decide whether or not to have a public hearing. That's the issue that we've asked that you consider a motion on. I'm not aware of any prohibition to that for the city council.
Anyway, thank you, Guy. Listen, any other questions? Mr. Sampson, Mayor, do you have any questions for me or?
Not right now.
Okay. So anyway, I'm not sure whether you guys are gonna vote for a motion today or not, but there is always a fear because there's no clarity, as you can see, So I'm standing here with so much lack of clarity here, and we don't know whether I'm gonna be railroaded here or not. And this could have been resolved way earlier, honestly. But think about it. I came here in October of last year. This could have been resolved earlier, Mayor. But do you understand why I'm here again?
I do understand, but.
Because I've not been receiving response properly.
Right, and it needs to be addressed and it needs to be taken care
A
of.
wrong is a wrong, Mayor. There's no fear in that, and you gotta get it right.
We're voting illegally and we're messing up again.
Mr. Mayor, so to clarify one more time, permit 46609, now before we said that it's.
I'll try to clarify. Right now, the permit is in place. We have determined that meeting was not publicly noticed in the paper as required by the LDR. So there's a due process issue due Mr. Patel, okay?
So can they start on that
How we handle the
permit?
existing permit is a question I am not prepared to answer tonight. I am saying, though, that he is going to get his fair shot, not as an appeal, where he has different burdens, but he's gonna be able to present his case to the Planning and Zoning Board and they will decide the definitions as that board, so.
So
I will
from the
have to work-
beginning,
I will have to
DeNova.
work out the permit issue.
Okay, so my concern is, again, so we're starting at square one with the permit, but there's a permit issued.
That's what we have, that's the.
So they could
second
be
issue.
working right now on the permit.
I don't think they are, but that's something we were checking into. You know, we've come to this decision, once we learned the notice issue.
If the meeting wasn't noticed properly, then how could you have issuance of the
We
permit?
gotta figure out how to handle that situation.
So to me, that would be just a revocation of the permit until you go through the proper process. Wouldn't that be correct?
Well, that's what I've got to look into. But yes, there is an issue with due process on the issuance of that permit. That one, fell through the cracks on advertising. The
So it
LDR
wasn't noticed in the paper.
That's correct, and the LDR requires it to be noticed.
I'm just unsure how you could have an active permit if we didn't have notice of a meeting.
We will have that resolved in the next couple of days, and I'll keep the council apprised on how we're gonna handle that permit. But we are assuring Mr. Patel he is going to get his initial bite at the apple, if that's the way to put it appropriately.
So the P and Z board will make the decision whether this is a truck stop or not?
Correct.
At a meeting that's noticed.
Just like they had a special exception.
It'll be a special meeting to deal.
And a
only
public,
with
pretty much a
this
public
situation.
hearing as well.
It'll be a quasi judicial hearing where it'll be noticed to the public.
Okay.
All of that'll be, the comment and all that'll be taken into account.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, please?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jonigan. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd.
Okay, let's move to item 6. Have to do that. Mr. Dial, this is about the property next to Wilson Family Theater.
Yes, Mayor, it's been discussed in a meeting. The Wilson family was wanting to use that, north part of the property the city owns there at the old bank building to use for parking.
Right.
We've looked into it, there really is nothing that precludes it from being parking as long as it stays grass. The LDRs do change if it gets, building on it or pavement or something like that, that will actually change the description to a parking lot. But I guess the question has always been, how does the city want to move forward with that, working with the theater? Is it something that we want to create a public parking area there, just a grass area? Is it something that looking to maybe, donate to the theater or to sell? That's why I brought all these parcels up before. It just needs some guidance on how you want to move forward with it, because it is fenced. The city does maintain it now, and how it looks going forward.
My initial reaction is to make it a public parking because they may use it at night or their events, but we have a lot of events downtown and things, and there's a lot of parking on that end, and if it was a private parking lot, then it wouldn't allow the public to do it. Where if we try to do it in public, we can always later on give it to them or sell it to somebody. But I think initially, if we did it as a public, see how it worked out.
I agree with that, Mayor. I agree with that. I think that would be better. That's a very, very good idea, just to maintain it. And it's the city's parking, anybody can park here, it's public parking.
So I guess on that, I need guidance on whether or not we're going to remove the fence, or we're going to do any kind of improvements to it, because once you start making improvements to it, you're going to designate it as a parking lot.
Mr. Mayor, I think your comment about it being the grass would be what I would think, maybe just, could we do like the church parking, just have headers? Or would that?
Well, once you start putting down, stop blocks and things like that, you're starting to get into the LDRs on that part. But the LDR specifies that if it has a 1-inch thick of asphalt or something that makes it pervious surface again, then it starts turning into a parking lot that has to be maintained in a different way.
So if we don't put down that impervious surface, then we would be good. That's what I would recommend. I think that'd be the cheapest thing too. And that way they could use the parking, the public can use the parking, because we really don't have enough public parking downtown.
Especially when we have events downtown.
And I'd heard, I think, Ms. Phillips one time mentioned possibly using the side of that building to project a movie on or something. I don't know, that was something she was thinking about. So I know she does a lot of things downtown. I know the movies over here and different things. But I do think that as parking, that would be helpful.
I do. I agree with that. I do too. We start there and then see how that works.
Okay, next is, tobacco-free parks, Mr. Jernigan.
Just to, you heard Mr. George when he came in, about this, tobacco-free parks. I'm just in agreement with, getting on board with the county. The county has adopted this ordinance or, took action on it, and, I would love to see, the city, parks and this council adopt the same thing. So, tobacco-free, they do all the work, they maintain it, they put the signs up. I think we all should appreciate that, so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Mr. Mayor, would it be possible that we could look at this ordinance as attached here to see what needs to be done to fit it into the city code?
Yeah.
We would
Perhaps.
just draft a similar ordinance, what we would do would just piggyback on the
Yes.
findings made by the county and modify it so that it,
Yes.
I'd recommend that.
Okay.
I agree with it.
we'll add, we'll make create a draft ordinance for council and staff.
Thank you.
Okay, and, Mr. Allen, Glenn Lake, you've already gave an update on that.
Yes,
Anything ahead? All right, let's move into item 9, City Council Ordinance number 2023-2253 on first reading. Kenny, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the city of Lake City, Florida, pursuant to petition number ANX 2302 relating to voluntary annexation, making findings, annexing certain real property located in Columbia County, Florida, which is reasonably compact and contiguous to the boundaries of the city of Lake City, Florida, and to the boundaries of the city of Lake City, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Okay, we move into adoption of City Council Ordinance 2023-2253 on first reading.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Ordinance 2023-2253 on the first reading.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Ms. Young? Sorry. Mayor Whit?
Yes. Moving to resolution, we have City Council Resolution 2023-076. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of the state highway lighting, maintenance, and compensation agreement work order with the state of Florida Department of Transportation, providing for the terms and conditions of maintenance of the state facilities to be maintained by the city, and establishing an effective date.
Is there a motion on City Council Resolution 2023-076?
Mr. Mayor, oh, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I make that motion on 2023-076.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-077. Mr. Kenny, would you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of a grant agreement with the state of Florida Department of Financial Services to facilitate the public safety billing generator and HVAC replacement and reimburse the city for certain costs expended up to an amount of $422,000.
Is there a motion as to City Council Resolution 2023-077?
Mr. Mayor, motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2023-077.
Second.
And a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-078. Can we read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing and adopting a security and awareness training and testing policy and providing an effective date.
Is there a motion as to City Council Resolution 2023-078?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion of 2023-078.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mayor Whit?
Yes. Next is City Council Resolution 2023-079. Mr. Can you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the Lake City Police Department to apply for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $15,448, providing for the procurement of equipment for the use and benefit of the police department and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion that City Council Resolution 2023-079?
Mr. Mayor, motion for approval, City Council Resolution 2023-079.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Spoke with the chief, this is to get a golf cart for them to use downtown through this grant. Ms. Action, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jernigan?
Yes.
Mayor Witten?
Yes. Comments of council?
I just have one question for direction of council. I've been asked to render an opinion as to Mr. Donnell Bowden's service on the Public Pension Board. And if it's the consensus of council, I would like to add that question to the request for the Attorney General opinion that the council directed from us. Without that situation, in our opinion, is a much muddier, unclearer situation than the Planning and Zoning Board, because he's acting on essentially the Board of Trustees of the Pension Board as far as facilitating.
So you want to add it to the same one
Correct.
instead of a separate one?
Correct, I've already got it drafted, I went ahead and added it as a second and figured we.
I think Mr. Bowden maybe recommended it.
He's asked for the opinion,
asked
and I feel more comfortable. My recommendation at this point is he remain on the committee, but since we're asking for the one, requesting permission from the council to go ahead and add it and have clarification on these issues down the road.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.